In this episode, I want to talk to you about identifying a role in the game, and for me that basically means like which farm priority you have, or like how important it is for you to farm, or how important it is for you to fight, and like what you want to do in order to win the game. In some lineups, I would say that this changes a lot like over time. Some parts of the game you're gonna be like farming a lot for a timing, or some parts of the game you're gonna be fighting like all the time and basically getting no items. In this replay that we're playing, it's a tournament game against a team called 5 Men. For me, I rush a blink. I wanna blink stun and make a lot of moves. And looking at our lineup, we have a Drow that's a carry, we have a DK mid, who actually also bought a blink in this scenario, and then we have 2 supports, Shadow Demon and Crystal Maiden. I think that everyone on the team, except for me, probably scales more with items at this point than I do. Maybe I can get like a Yules or a Veil, but I kind of consider myself a support from this moment forward. All I want to do is like make plays, make sure that the enemy team is getting hunted and that the rest of my team can farm. I think that farm on Drow and Dragon Knight is naturally a lot more important than it is on me. But I think even Crystal Maiden, I think is like a support that ideally wants a lot of farm. He wants to finish like his blink BKB, and then he can like blink into their base and get this like huge team fight ultimate. It's gonna have a lot more impact than probably a BKB on me would do. Like him having a BKB is like a lot better for our team. So understanding this, I know that basically all I want to do is just run around and fight. Maybe sometimes I push some waves and stuff, especially if it's like scary waves that we need to push out in order to, I guess, keep the map control. But in this scenario, because we're the ones playing aggressive, it's usually just about hunting heroes. So once you understand like, okay, I want my team to farm, I want to be hunting heroes, you want to make sure that you do it in a way where your team is also playing with you. So you're kind of like the playmaker in this game. I decided like, okay, I'm the one that's going to like set up plays. I'm not always going to be the one initiating, because my Dragon Knight is maybe sometimes a better initiator than me. I can get like a big epicenter off if he goes in first. But I'm going to be the one that at least calls the plays and makes the moves. And he's generally going to be the one that's farming until we like decide to take team fights or be smoking, then he will also run with me. So that means that when I'm identifying my role as like kind of a playmaker and a support, I want to play together with the heroes that have damage and that can follow up to me. And I don't really want to play alone. I never really want to farm jungle. I just want to make sure that we're keeping like high aggression and we're taking a lot of map control. You can see like my 2 carries, I guess, or cores are just farming the enemy ancients. And I'm kind of just sitting here like waiting for the enemy. Maybe they will run in. We know like if they don't run in, okay, well they're not on this side of the map. I know they're gonna be up here. So I'll probably like move my hero towards their enemies, or towards their heroes, because I want to fight. Turns out that they then run back bottom. And you can see based on our movements, I'll show you right here. We start running top, but we see them on this ward. So they like rotated backwards. They're trying to dodge us all the time because we're a lot stronger. So I'm just like sitting waiting. We're basically baiting our Dragon Knight. Like maybe they will go on him, maybe not. I'm like ready for these moves. I haven't touched a creep in I don't know how long. We go and smoke again. Like I'm always just fighting. Instead my Shadow Demon is the one that's running around farming. He's like playing alone. He wants to finish his Adelens. Maybe he wants to get an Aghanim. Like items on him scale more and levels on him is like more important. So I guess like understanding which heroes on your team should be farming and whether you should be doing it or not. You can see in all of these plays, like me being able to blink stun, like I don't even show myself. My 2 cores go in and kill him, but I know that I'm like ready. If they would go on them, I would like get a huge epicenter and I'm like ready for these team fights. And because I didn't even show myself right away, I'm keep running at the enemy. All we're doing is like setting up plays. It's just me and Crystal Maiden right now, but this means if somebody walks up here, they're dead. My like cores can connect. Like you always want to be in position, you always want to fight in a scenario like this. Some games, like I'm playing maybe a Beastmaster or an Enigma, you know, especially as Enigma, your role in the game is usually to be the one that's like farming and getting this blink BKB timing and being this huge like late game carry. In a game like this, it's like the complete opposite. I don't really want to farm, I just want to go and fight. But some games as well, like you need to think for yourself, what is my role? It's not just because I'm playing Sanking that it is like this. Some games I'm playing Sanking, I'm probably going to be farming a lot more and I'm going to view it really differently. So you need to think for yourself, like most important one is which hero on my team is strong right now, and if it's you, well, you better go and fight. And also which hero on my team is going to be strong later in the game, and that if that isn't you, well, you also better go and fight instead of farming. To help you understand like what it is that makes your hero strong, both in the moment and later into the game, you kind of have to be looking at matchups between your 2 drafts. If I look at my hero and I look at the enemy heroes, I don't think that like if I have a lot of items, then I'm gonna be able to have a lot of impact against his heroes. Like an Arc Warden with 5 items, if I like blink and stun him, you know, it's really good because he's stunned and we can kill him, but I'm not really gonna be the one doing damage to him. It's gonna be like my Drow Ranger or my Dragon Knight or maybe even my Crystal Maiden is gonna be the one that's like actually killing him. So in scenarios like this, it's good to understand that the only thing I need to do is to like blink and stun and make sure that we can reach the enemy. In some games, like even on Sanking, like let's say they have like a Phantom Lancer on the enemy team, and they have heroes that are very tanky and they're not really like that important to catch. There's not this like Void and Arc Warden, there's this like Phantom Lancer, maybe he has like a heart and he's like, even if I blink stun him, he's not gonna do anything. Maybe they have this like Tide Hunter. In games like this, it can be more important for you to use farm and to understand like my impact in the game is gonna come later. Like maybe when I get even when I get my 25 talent, like that your Sandstorm slows and blinds, maybe I can finish a Shivas, maybe I can go like even Radiance. You can think to yourself like, okay, if I get these items, like my game will be really good, or then I will be really strong against their heroes. Of course, everyone will want to have farm and everyone wants a lot of gold. So you also need to look at your team and be like, okay, well, I want to get these items. But maybe like if I have a Drow Ranger and we're playing against like a Phantom Lancer, maybe he needs to get his like Aghanims and a Mjolnir to kill all the illusions. Well, is my Shiva's Radiance going to be more important than his items? And then you need to like balance like where is the gold most impactful in your team, and if you still decide that it's you have to be honest and not just want to grab a lot of farm, then yeah, you should probably be farming a lot more and playing safer and playing more as a carry. But if you think that, okay, well, Shiva's Radiance on me is going to have less impact than the Drow with like an Aghanims and Mjolnir, well, you probably want to give this guy space and make sure that you're playing more to enable the other cores. In this game, I'm going to show you how I identify my role at different parts of the game. I think it's important to understand as well that things are like not always going to stay the same. If like in this scenario you're playing a blink hero and you want to buy a blink and you feel like this is the item that's going to let me have a lot of impact, you kind of have to consider yourself as like a carry up until the moment that you get your blink, because this like item timing is very important and you really want to like farm and not die, which is like the definition of how a carry plays, right? So if you're thinking like, okay, I need to get this item, and you want to play a lot safer and like more as a carry, you need to understand like when that also ends and at what point you switch from wanting to farm and getting this item to, okay, now I'm gonna make moves and let other people farm. And I think that like getting a blink and finishing it is like a very easy indicator to be like, okay, farming, blink, and then like, okay, I'm not gonna farm anymore, I'm just gonna like go fight. Sometimes in games this changes over time. Sometimes you're not playing a blink hero, maybe you're playing like let's say you're playing like an Underlord or something, and maybe you really want to finish your Road of Aethos and you really want to finish your Guardian Greaves. Like I think Darkshire is a really good example. Like maybe you want to farm your Guardian Greaves, and maybe you're level 13, 14, so you can finish like your VAC combo and these things, and once you have hit that timing, then you're strong and then you go and fight, and it's not as important to get items anymore. In a game like this where you have a lot of slow heroes, they just wants to farm jungle. You can see like Spectre. This is an older patch, so he goes Necro 1, but he's basically just farming. You can view this as a Midas. He's queuing up a Radiance. This guy's going to be farming for another good at least 10-20 minutes more. Lone Druid, a little bit less greedy, but also going to be farming. He's queuing up a Desolator. That's another like 2,000 gold that he needs to get. That's another guaranteed like 5 minutes of farming. That means that I'm the only hero that's going to be able to make moves. So it's extremely important that I get a good early game. Like, if my Spectre is like being dove top and it's like TP, help me, like I'm not going to give a shit about that, because I know if I TP up here, it's going to hurt my own game. And I know that in order for our team to have a good game, I need to have a good game right now so that I can then make space like moving forward. Let's say that Spectre has 2,000 gold right now, more. Like sure, he almost has a Sacred Relic, but let's say I am 2,250 gold from Blink. That means that we can literally not do anything until I get my blink, because Spectre is not going to blink stun people, you know. He's not going to be the one catching, setting up a lane, starting team fights. He's not going to do any of these things. That's like all on me. So it's very important to understand that right now, like, I'm the #1 carry. Like when we talk in this game, it's like we need to get Axe farmed. Axe is the only hero that matters right now. The rest of you just like tank it, don't die, do whatever you can. That's kind of like our communication. Later into the game, however, skip like another 20 minutes, you know, we're very far ahead. I'm doing really well, I'm really farmed. I have like a Crimson Guard. However, at this point, I have all the items I need, and I've been running around ganking a little bit. You can see we have 92 kills, so the game is a little bit slow. That means that they're playing very defensive and they're like falling behind on gold, which is really good for our team. I would say that we have the late game lineup, so I don't really need to stress. I don't really need to like do any crazy moves or make a lot of space. We're happy just farming, but I understand that I've kind of like had my moment and my timing has passed, and it's more important now that I run around and make space for my team and let them farm. So of course, like my BKB is kind of what I'm aiming for, and it's going to be really impactful against like Gyro and Disruptor and these heroes that can deal a lot of damage. I'll be like unkillable with my BKB, but it's also important to understand that I'm like 3,000 gold away. It's not like I can just sit and farm 3,000 gold and like in the triangle and expect my carries to also farm and not to die. So if you look on the minimap, basically the roles right now is Spectre is now the hard carry. He's like the hero that's always going to play safe and farm. I'm going to be the one that's like making moves, playing in front of my team, probably going in first. You can see like we're smoking, that me and Lone Druid, who is also very tanky, are like running in first, setting up plays. We kill this Mirana. Spectre is just farming. He's falling back to triangle. He's just going to farm. I'm going to run around and make moves. I take like the aggressive farm. In this scenario, they're over here, but we don't really know where they are. You can, if you keep looking at the minimap, it's always like, oh, they do something, I TP in, I run in, I try and fight. Spectre can connect, you know, now he has items. Once the fight is over, Spectre goes back to farm. And we make moves. Okay, Spectre died. But once that is over, you can see like here, Spectre goes back to farm. I'm like ready to make moves. He's like always the one playing like a carry. I just finished my BKB, so I'm gonna play as like the tank and the frontliner. I wouldn't really call it a support, but I'm like supporting my course to play their game. I don't really care too much about my game. I go in first, I get swapped, I get cursed. You know, because I'm so farmed, I'm not really taking any damage. I'm just going in, I'm getting this like nice triple call here. You know, the Spectre can do whatever he wants. He can use digital damage. He's taking like 150 damage right now. Like not a problem at all. Things are going great. Everyone is like playing according to their roles, you know. This is how good Dota looks like. I'm gonna show you an example right now of how to like identify a role when you're playing from behind and how to try and recover a game. It's important to understand that when you're playing from behind, you don't really want to buy items or play in a way that's like you're gonna delay your item timing. All your items that you get is like relevant to the state of the game kind of. And because we're playing 2 versus 3. This is a game from TI9 against TNC. Playing Sanking Dark Willow against an AM tri-lane, having a very rough lane. I'm like not bottom of the net worth, but it sure feels that way playing this game. And I understand that like all I want to do in this game is I want to be able to get my blink, and I want to like support my team. I want to set up plays and catch the enemy heroes. All the heroes on the enemy team are very squishy. Even Entomage, who has high magic resist, like even if I stun him, I'm sure me and Dark Willow can kill him together. We have a Void with a Chrono, we have a Blast, we have like a lot of damage. So I know like from the start of this game, okay, I want to get a blink and I want to set up plays. Problem for me is my laning phase is so bad, I can't really set pace and use my timing the way I would want to, because they've shut me down really well. So I know like, okay, for this, like basically up until the time I have my blink, I'm gonna try and farm a lot and try not to die. Problem, however, is I have 2 more heroes who also want to farm a lot and not to die. This Brood is buying Midas, and this Faceless Void who, well, Chrono and cooldown and wants to buy a lot of items, right? That means that my role in the game is still to defend towers and still to try and keep map control. At the same time, I don't want to die and I want to get my blink. So you're like kind of put in a hard position where your team expects you to do stuff, but you're really far behind and you have very low farm. You kind of want to try and play, you want to try and do like the best you can. And play a little bit risk-free. In this scenario, for example, I'll show you a bad example of I TP bottom and defend this tower. And I wouldn't say that I'm like a little bit tilted, but maybe I'm like a little bit off my game. So instead of sandstorming over here and being really defensive and telling my team like, okay, be ready to TP in, they're gonna gank me bottom, they're gonna dive this tower, or I'll tell them like, okay guys, be ready to kill this Earthshaker if they go me bottom, be ready to push mid. I sandstorm a little bit too aggressively and I basically just die for nothing. I think these kind of plays are very easy to do when you're like falling from behind and you're a little bit shook or tilted from the laning phase. So you need to really avoid, I guess, taking risk and further like ruining your game more than it's already been ruined. But you still need to understand that like what your role is, and that you're still gonna kind of be viewed as the third core, as like the support. no matter how much like I need my blink, and no matter how much my team wishes they could make space for me, and they really wish, wow, I wish the Sand King had a blink, how many like plays and kills we could get if he had this blink, realistically, like Brood and Void are not going to be able to help me get that blink. So everyone just still has to play their own game, and they still like have to hope that we're going to be smart enough and we're going to play well enough to make it happen eventually. In some games, if you have a very active course and you have heroes that wants to make space, like maybe you have a Void Spirit, maybe you have a Ember Spirit, these heroes that can play fast, like a Tiny Mid, really good example. He's probably going to go blink and run around and kill people. You can kind of expect that they're going to play more aggressive, and you can play more to farm, and you can play a little bit more on defense. In games when you have really greedy cores like Arcward and Spectre, Faceless Void, you kind of have to expect that no matter what, these heroes are not going to help you anyway. So you should try and get as good as an early game you can in order to be able to make moves later. And if it happens that you do have a poor early game, it's important to understand that, like, okay, I know what I want to do, I want to get my blink, I want to be able to have impact eventually, but still to understand that your team can't help you, you're kind of like stuck in this position, and you just have to make the best of it. Because you're also so far behind, and the enemy team also knows you want to get a blink, however, it's a good way to use like your lack of resources as a way of baiting. They know like, oh shit, this Sand King has the saddest game, they know he wants to sit on lanes and farm, they know like he wants to get his blink, so they also gonna try and gank me. Because of that, I tell like my Dark Willow, you can see like before we kill this Lashrak, the way the map is positioned, I tell them like be ready to TP in bottom, they're gonna go on me. So as soon as I see heroes, before I'm like even about to die, they start TPing. Even Faceless Void I think starts TPing. No, okay, that's just a bug on the minimap. Regardless, think of it like your cores are gonna be farming, the enemy is gonna run at you. So try and use that as like a bait, and use the fact that you're far behind and they wanna shut you down as a way to get like plays going without being able to get plays going, I guess. Without having a blink, without having catch. Like if people overextend and if they do risky moves, you're always going to be able to punish it if you're ready. In conclusion, identifying your role is like all about your own timings and how well you scale into the enemy team and how well like your other heroes in your team scales. If you're the hero that scales the hardest, like maybe some games you're playing Doom offlane for example, and you think you just have a bunch of like Ember Spirits and Tinies on your team that's just gonna make moves. Like I'd be all for saying like, yeah, go Midas, like go get your Shivas, blink, BKB, refresher, you know, you'll be the hero that like wins the game. It's not always your own hero related, it's a lot to do like with what the other heroes have, but try and understand which hero on your team scales the most and at what times. Basically in the early game, if you're about to get a blink, you're the one scaling the most, because once you finish the blink, you're the strongest hero. In the late game, your carry naturally is going to be the hero that scales the most. Once he finishes his Butterfly, Daedalus, MKB, he's going to be a lot stronger than you are. So general rule of thumb is just thinking like, when do I need farm, and at what point in the game is my farm no longer going to matter as much?